are going to make a marvelous Mrs. Maisel look-alike dress. I chose this beautiful teal ensemble. I love this outfit so much. I love the little jacket. I love the green sash. It actually looks like it's rushed material around the waist, but I'm going to replace that with a sash. In fact, I'm gonna make a lot of changes to this, but it's gonna be fabulous. It's gonna be wonderful. Let's get started. Today we're going to be using Simplicity pattern 8460. This is a 1950s vintage reproduction pattern. And as you can see, it's very similar to what Mrs. Maisel wore. So the collar is different. There are some notches cut out. I think we can make this work. I think it's going to be super cute. So let's get started. The first thing I have to do is cut out all of the pattern pieces. Now we're just pinning everything down. Because this is not exactly my size and I need a size up from this, I just made sure to cut it accordingly. I'm going to use my disappearing ink pen to make some new marks for the darts. And to make the marks for the darts, I'm just going to poke through this very thin tissue paper with my disappearing ink pen. This pattern came with different pieces for the different sizes of the front jacket. Since I need a size 16, I placed the size 12 piece over the size 14 piece so that I could see what changes needed to be made. Then I just cut it out accordingly. It looks like the darts stay the same, so I'll just put those where they go. I also have to make the markings for the buttonholes. For the lining, I actually had some of this peacock cotton fabric in my stash, so luckily I have enough to use for lining. I was really happy to find that this matches so closely. This is the peacock lining and this is the fabric, so it's a pretty close match. I mean, it's not exact, but for the lining, it actually works out really good. And of course, we have to cut out some pieces for the interfacing. Now it's time to turn all of these pieces of fabric into a beautiful ensemble. This used to be the scariest part of sewing for me because I thought, oh my gosh, it's just scraps of fabric. How is this ever going to be a dress? But it does, and it's fine, and we're going to take it one step at a time. The first thing we have to do is apply the front facing to the interfacing. Just going to give this a really good iron just to make it nice and flat, and we'll just put that on there like this. There's a little bit of a difference because I was kind of eyeballing it for the sizes, but that's okay. We're gonna fix that in a minute. Okay, we've got that done. Now only a billion more steps. First, they say to stay stitch the top of the front of the dress, and so I've done that. It's really important that you follow the instructions and start on the edges and sew inward because it really does help keep the form of your dress. Next, we're going to take the piece that we applied the interfacing to, and we're going to turn up the bottom edge and sew that in place, just to give it a finished look inside of the dress. And I'm going to do that by ironing and then just sewing it. As you can see, this was starting to fray a lot, and so I just zigzag stitched on the bottom edge and then sewed it in place. And now I'm going to just clip off all these little fraying pieces so that it looks nice and tidy underneath. From the front, or rather this is going to be the underside, it looks pretty good. It also says to turn this over 5/8 of an inch. We'll do that, and it says to trim it to 1/4 inch, But I am not confident in my skills of resizing this yet, so we're just gonna fold it under and then see what happens when we actually have to attach this. So here's my little trick for putting the dots on the same side for the darts. I'm sure other people have thought of this, but this is what I do too. I put the pins in on one side, then I flip it over, and I can use my disappearing ink pen to make the little notches so that it's the same on each side, and then I can just pull the pins out. So to make the darts, we're just going to make sure that these two pieces match like that. So we're gonna iron this down. If it helps, you can just draw like a line that kind of tentatively goes like that so that you know where to sew. And even though this got darker when I ironed it, it's disappearing ink, it's air and water soluble, so it'll go away as soon as I want it to. And at the end of every point, once you have your two pieces of thread, tie them to secure them in place, and you won't have any trouble with unraveling. I do it a bunch of times, probably unnecessary, but that's what I do. Putting in darts is like one of my least favorite things to do, but it's one of the most important things to making your dress look really, really well made. It is everything for giving shape, so it's important. Okay, so I have all of the darts in, and now we're going to press the bust darts down, and we're going to press these darts in towards the waist, or towards the middle of the dress, I should say. Oops, I accidentally pressed that one that way. That was not my intention. And we'll just do the same thing for the other side. Next, with right sides together, we're going to pin the facing to the top of the dress. Puckering that's here is actually part of the plan because you can see that it puckers here in the picture as well. So I'm just gonna go with it and hope for the best. I was gonna change things, but I think that's really how it's supposed to go. Now we're going to sew along here, all the way around here, and I will meet you back in a minute. Okay, so now we have this like that. Am I supposed to clip anything? Now we're gonna just make some marks here. Just kind of clip the edges just a little bit. And now we're going to turn it inside out. Or right side out. Something side out. Starting to look like a garment. It always concerns me, are these the same size? Why, yes. Yes, they are. That's amazing. Actually, it's not. It just is to me. It's just kind of amazing to me. Now that looks really good. What I'm gonna do now is just understitch this. I had a few problems, but I think it's gonna be okay. I got it done, and now we get to put this aside for a little while and start working on the back. With the back two sections, just like the front, we're going to stay stitch along the neckline. I'm going to put in the darts just like in the front. Okay, hidden in step 5, we have to stitch between the notch and the dot. So that is about between right here and right there. So that's what I'm going to do. The instructions say to finish the bottom of the dress later, but I'm just going to finish it up right now because, I don't know, that's what I'm doing. So this one needs to be ironed flat and then it can be sewn. I will work on the hem later, but this part I'm gonna do right now. Now I have finished the back part and I'm pretty impressed with myself because I haven't done this in a very, very long time and it was kind of hard to remember. Now it's time to put in the zipper, and if I thought this was difficult because I haven't done it in years, putting in a zipper, oh man, I got really good at it at one point and I was really comfortable doing it, but I haven't put a zipper in a very long time. And this is green, not teal, because I don't actually have a teal, and this is the closest I have. But I think it will work, and I'm gonna have to really search my memory banks on how to do this, so wish me luck. And we're gonna do this off camera because there's gonna be a lot of choice words being said, and I kinda wanna keep this little G-rated. So now my zipper is finished, and it's not perfect by any means, but it is really good considering I haven't done a zipper in a very long time. I'm pretty proud of it. It's gonna be good enough for me, and I like it. So on to the next step. The next step is to prepare the two back pieces for the interfacing. So we're just gonna do that here. I'm going to apply the interfacing. There we go. Now we have our two back pieces, which go like this. So we're gonna have to fold under this part, and then I'm just gonna fold it under one more time so that it looks really nice and neat. Now we're going to attach the back facings to the front. So just like the front, it's the two right sides facing each other, and I'm just going to pin them in place, and then we'll sew along here and along here. With everything sewn on, we can inside out or right side out the dress. I'm gonna understitch this part as far as possible right here. That way that just keeps that down and from flipping around. And we'll do that around here as far as possible and around here as far as possible. So there we go. It's all down like it should be, and we can right side out it now. Whoops, I forgot to clip the edges. What am I thinking? We forgot to clip the edges, so we're gonna clip the edges real quick. Now we can right side out it, and we can also iron it in place, and it will look so lovely. I am really in so much love with this so far. It's just turning out way better than I thought it was going to. And now we iron. Okay. Ta-da! Now we turn it this way, like this. And what we're going to do is take and sew these down like that and like that. And I'm going to hand sew these down because it's just a lot easier than fiddling with the sewing machine. And now the back is slip stitched in place. And does the zipper work? Yes, fabulously. Now we just have to put a little hook and eye right there. Now with right sides together, we're supposed to attach the shoulder straps. I accidentally went ahead and sewed them all the way up, and I wasn't supposed to do that, so I'm gonna take them apart right now. Then we're going to sew them. Now I'm going to slip stitch the sides, and then I'm gonna fold this under and slip stitch this as well. And then we will have a perfect shoulder strap. With our straps now complete and looking pretty good, I might say, we're going to move on to stitching up the side seams. After I sewed the side seams, I noticed that this was frayed quite a bit. I decided that I was just gonna cut off all the little frays, and then I'm just gonna zigzag stitch on this side and zigzag stitch on that side. Now, to help keep the waistline from stretching, you're supposed to put on some gross grain ribbon, and I pretty much only have this Halloween ribbon. I mean, I can't believe that out of all of my drawers of ribbon, this is the only gross grain I have. It's really cute and I really like it, but I would have preferred to have something that matched the dress, but you know what? It's good enough for now. So I'm going to take this and put it in the waistline so that it doesn't stretch out. And how we're supposed to do that is just kind of tack it to the center so that it doesn't become an issue. So we'll start at the back and just tack it there. And we're supposed to tack it to each of the darts, and it'll just kind of sit there and stay in place. Now, the last part we have to do is the hem on the bottom. So we're going to fold this under about like that. I think about that long. I'm gonna iron under the hem. And then I'm gonna iron it up one more time like Then I can sew it in place using a blind hem stitch. I know you guys can see my messy studio, but oh my goodness, the dress! Look how great it looks. I'm so impressed. And we're on to the jacket. The instructions call for a bound buttonhole, and I've never done one of those before. I watched some tutorial videos online, and this was my first try on a piece of scrap material. I wasn't really happy with it. Don't really know what I'm doing yet. I tried it again using the interfacing fabric, and I just really wasn't happy with it, and I think I need to practice before I can actually do this correctly. So I'm gonna put this aside. I'm not gonna follow the instructions and do this kind of buttonhole. I'm just gonna do a more traditional buttonhole. If you notice on the dress they made, there are covered buttons here, and it's also on the old artwork. But because I live in Newport, there's only one fabric store in town, and it's a quilt store. The rest of the fabric I have to buy either online or at Walmart, and Walmart didn't have any buttons to cover, so I didn't feel like waiting for Amazon. And I found these really cute buttons from Le Button, and I thought they would actually work for this piece. They kind of look 1950s, 1960s, even though they're plastic and not really metal. I still thought they would look really, really cute. So I'm going to use these. They're also not the size I need. These are 7/8 of an inch instead of 1 1/4 inches. So I'm going to have to readjust the buttonhole width. I'm just going to remove one of these, and I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch there and 1/8 of an inch here and go like that. That's about how wide I want the buttonholes to be. And so now I have my buttonholes at the length that I want. It's not ideal. I really would have liked them to be covered, but I also really want to finish this project soon. I went ahead and marked some interfacing because I think it needs to be here to stabilize the buttonholes. Okay, so here's what happened. We have these two nicely lined up, and then this happened. So I think, luckily nothing's been cut, so I think I can take this out and redo it, I hope, because it needs to be over here. I don't know what the heck happened. Good. Okay. Hopefully I can take this out. It's not gonna be pretty though. Much better. I'm not loving that there are these marks there from the buttonhole maker. That is not my favorite thing ever, but it's there, and I think I can still pick out those threads, but this is much better, a lot more lined up. Don't mess up on buttonholes, folks. You will regret it. All right, moving on. I'm just gonna slit this open with a seam ripper. And I'm gonna add some fray check to these so we don't have this situation happening. Good enough for now. We'll do better next time. We have 2 sets of darts here that we have to sew in. So I'm going to start working on those, and we'll put the darts in the back. We'll apply the interfacing to the collar by ironing it on. Now we're going to stitch the 2 pieces with right sides together at the shoulders. Next, we'll put the 2 collars facing each other together. With the 2 sides together, we're going to sew along here all the way around like that. And after I sewed it in place, I need to clip all the curves so that it will cooperate when I want to turn it inside out, which we'll do now, and then we'll iron it in place. Next, we have to take the collar and put it somehow, some way around here. So we're gonna clip this to the outside like this. And now that it's all pinned together, it looks kind of pretty with the pearls. I'm kind of getting inspired on that, but it also looks a little bit dangerous. Which leads us to our next part. I'm going to baste along the collar here so that this stays in place until I can sew it. It's time for the sleeves, and I haven't done sleeves in a really long time either, so I'm a little nervous. We're supposed to make 2 long stitches along this section so that we can ease the sleeve onto the jacket. So I'm going to do that, and then we have to stitch each sleeve to itself like that. So I'm gonna go do that and be right back. And once you've sewn the sleeves, you need to iron the seam open. And now we're just going to fold up the hem of the sleeve. And it says to use a catch stitch to put it in place. So I'm going to stitch this in place along here and do the same with the other side. Because I haven't done sleeves in a very long time, I had a little bit of trouble. So what I ended up doing is adding the gathering stitches like the instructions recommend. Then I ended up basting along the edges just to hold it in place. Then I went through with some hand stitching that was a little bit more detailed to really get the fullness in. And then I went over it with a sewing machine, and of course it needs to be trimmed down and everything else. But I finally got my sleeves the way I wanted. It was an effort because it's probably been about, I don't know how many years, maybe even 10 years since I've done a sleeve. So it was definitely something I had to refresh myself on. And to be honest, I never really had that much practice with them in the first place. Now I have all of these pieces that need interfacing applied to them, and then they need to be sewn together, which is going to look something like this. So there's 8, 9, and 10, and these have to have interfacing on them, and they have to be sewn together. And then I guess we'll move on to the next step, which is constructing the lining. This is all riveting, isn't it? Here is the lining completed. I really didn't care about the puckering around here because this is going to be inside, and I wasn't going to be too picky about that because this is for me. I'm not selling it. I'm not giving it away. And I just felt like, you know what? It's fine. I made the back pleats, but I made them wrong. I was supposed to just take this part and make a square, but I ended up doing like this double pleat thing. It still looks really cute though. I like how it turned out. So now we get to put on this wonky doohickey, which is going to be interesting. Basically, with right sides together, we're supposed to attach this. This is going to be fun, she says sarcastically. Very fun. As I was pinning this, I noticed that the collar was not aligning with the lining part. So I'm going to have to remove this and shorten this section of the collar because it's just way too long. Hopefully I'm doing the right thing and that works out, but there's just no other way. Otherwise I have all this leftover lining just laying here. I made sure to cut a little bit off of both sides so that it was even. And now after about a half hour of trying to figure this out, I'm going to sew it together. I just realized the instructions never told me to actually sew the collar onto the jacket. And I've been all over the rest of the instructions, front and back. And the last word on the collar is just to baste it in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew it in place because that needs to be done. For some reason, because the instructions are so out of order, I thought that it was going to be, you know, something like under the finishing section, but it's not. So yeah, and it doesn't make sense to sew the lining in without this being sewn together. So to the sewing machine. Now we're going to take this lining while it's inside out, like that, and stick it in the right side out jacket. Look how much is left over there. That's all right. Oh wait, I'm supposed to iron the edges like that. Okay, I gotta do that first. I'll be right back. Okay, this is where my brain gets super confused. Okay, so in my mind, you should put the jacket like this and pin it like that and then, you know, kind of stitch it in place. But that's not how it goes. With right sides together, you're supposed to, okay, I guess it's making sense. Okay, so we're supposed to do the front. Maybe that's why I wasn't supposed to do this yet. No, that still doesn't make sense. Okay, it says with right sides together, stitch neck, front, and lower edges, but not the back, maybe? Ah, okay. Maybe that's why you weren't supposed to do the collar yet. Maybe? I don't know. This is hard. This is one of the harder ones I've done, and it's probably because I don't have any experience making jackets. This is my literal first jacket I've ever made, let alone one with a lining. So If I'm a little confused, that is why. Oh my goodness, this is like a big old jigsaw puzzle. Okay, please tell me this is gonna work out. Should I have done something differently? I don't know. Let's see if this actually pins together. This actually might work. Okay. This is what I was supposed to do. I shouldn't have stitched the dang neck lining. Ugh. That's why it said based. And this is where you did the neck lining. I tell you, these instructions were not fun. Okay, it looks like it's actually working. Oh my goodness. This is actually how it was supposed to be done, my friends. Well, this is an interesting turn of events. You know what? It's still gonna work though. Okay, so we're not supposed to do the back, but it says the bottom edge. So maybe, what? Neck and lower edges. Okay, so if we look right here, you can see that they want you to stitch there. So maybe you just leave a little opening. Let's go with that. Let's just do a little bit of the lower edge, and that leaves actually a lot of space. So let's just continue on like this so that I don't have to sit there and sew a ton of crap. There. And now I'll only have to hand sew this amount, and that'll be enough room to pull the jacket in and out. Hopefully this works out like I think it's going to. Oh my goodness, I hope this works. Okay, I have finished all of that, and now we're going to turn it inside out and see what kind of a disaster we have. Isn't that going to be fun? No, I'm just kidding. I think it turned out okay. Oh my goodness, it looks really good. Yay. Oh my gosh, it looks so cool. I've never made anything like this. This is really nice. Okay, the only thing that concerns me is how in the heck do I get that to be right? What? Ugh. That's the only thing that's concerning me. I gotta figure that out. I don't know, man. I don't really know. I'm supposed to, I think we're supposed to baste this together and then slip stitch that, but that's kind of annoying. Okay, so I'm supposed to finish buttonholes, baste facing around buttonholes. From the outside, insert pins through each of the 4 corners of the buttonhole. Very carefully slash only the facing along center to 1/4 inch, and then diagonally to pins. Holy moly. Okay, so we're gonna have to figure this out. And that's gonna be off camera because it's gonna make me crazy. Anywho, we're gonna roll this under and sew this in place inside. Although, doesn't it look pretty on the outside? I like that. It looks really cute, but I'm not doing it that way this time. We're gonna actually do it the way it says, and I'm going to stitch this inside, and I'm gonna finish up the edges here, and I'm gonna figure out the buttonholes, and I'm gonna do a little bit of ironing to make it look nice. Then that's it for the jacket. Yeah. Oh wait, I still have to add the buttons. Like that. I think it's gonna be really, really cute. So I'll do that too. And then we'll be done with the jacket and we can start working on the sash. For the sash, I have a yard of this green fabric, which I folded in half lengthwise so that it's like that. I'm gonna cut it in half. So I've got 1/2 of the fabric that I cut in half here, and I'm going to also cut this in half because this is gonna be the tail side. Next, I'm just gonna add each piece to each side of the long piece. For the buttonholes, I basted really lightly around them, and then I just used a seam ripper to cut a hole through both sides. And now I'm going to embroider stitch around the buttonholes and they'll be good to go. I turned in the seam for the lining and now I'm going to stitch around there, and I need to finish the back seam. And here it is with the sash. I really, really, really like it. You can make the sash very thin, or you can like widen it and make it a thicker sash. Just by playing with the ruffles a little bit. It's entirely up to you however you want to wear it, which I really, really like. And you can also wear it to the side for that Marilyn Monroe kind of feel. Actually, it wasn't just Marilyn, it was a very popular style to wear a sash on the side in the 50s and the 60s. And here she is, completely finished. I really love how this turned out. Oh my goodness. I think it's so beautiful, so elegant, and it looks just like something the marvelous Mrs. Maisel would wear. I absolutely adore the buttons, the waist sash. I actually love everything about this dress. Now, here are some of my thoughts on the pattern. I think the only difficulties I had were times when I was inexperienced. For example, I've never made a jacket before, and the bound buttons were kind of difficult because I'd never done that before either. So doing those two things was kind of challenging for me, and it had nothing to do with the pattern. It was more my inexperience. By the way, I hope to learn how to do a bound button, and then I'll make a video on it showing you guys exactly what I learned. I'm pretty determined to learn it because making jackets, oh my goodness, it's so fun. And I really like how this one turned out. I can also definitely see myself using this pattern again because it's so versatile and you can switch it up with different fabrics and different colors. And these are really essential wardrobe pieces, especially if you like dressing in the vintage style. Okay guys, that's all for now. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And let me know what kind of vintage dresses or even modern dresses you'd like to see me make. Let me know down below, and I'll see you next time.